Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, share, and comment. Also, don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Today, what are you eating? We have joining us a certified functional diagnostic nutritionist and author of the book, Autism, Wellbeing Plan, How to Get Your Child Healthy. The scope of his health research covers many areas, including autism and children's health, pregnancy preparation and recovery, and optimizing health and longevity. As a health professional, he uses advanced lab testing to identify hidden metabolic and health imbalances and teaches clients how to use diet, supplementation, detoxification, stress reduction, sleep optimization, and other strategies to address chronic health issues to transform your health. Let's welcome to the show, Christian Yordanov. Welcome back.
Paul, thank you so much. That was what an intro. I hope I live up to it, my brother.
Oh, always, brother. Always. So we want to get into the rabbit hole today and inform people and try to differentiate the myths from the legends to what the reality of what is really in our diet, and being conscientious of what we are eating, because of it seems like there's a huge amount of disabilities, disease out there, and how food is our medicine. Take us back how you got into this, and then what your research is right now and what you're working on.
So actually, it's kind of cool that we had to redo this interview, bro, because in the last week, basically on Monday, the day after we spoke last, in the morning, as I was having my morning cup of joe in front of my near infrared and red light therapy light, I got a divine download from the universe, and I got an idea for my next book. All of August, I said to myself, I'm going to chill out a little bit and let my next idea come to me. But it was September. It was kind of middle way through September, and I was already like, I don't know what to. I have to be working on something. Why haven't I figured out what it is? And I had an idea for a course all about gut health, and I had kind of started that. I'd done the research. It was all about doing the hard work now, slides, recording, editing, and something was pulling me away. So I got this idea for a book. It's going to be called something along the lines of Shortcuts to Better Health, Longevity, and Mental Performance, right? And it's going to be a short book. Maybe it will be a series. It will be volume 1. And I'm hoping the more people I tell now, that will keep me accountable, but I'm hoping to release it in maybe 3.5 months on the 2nd of January is my goal. So this is probably the 4th show. I've said this already this week on, and I've told a bunch of close people to me. So I really don't want to look like a fool. So I'm going to really try to get this project done. But in that book, even though I plan it to be a short book with the intent of making it quickly digestible for anyone that reads it. Maybe you could read it in a day, a couple of days, or in a week if you don't have much time. You should be able to get through it and find the shortcuts to health. And the reason these are important is because we live in the modern world, as we were kind of we were discussing last time, we should probably touch on that. We live in the modern world with a modern set of challenges, and some of these challenges are so in our face, like the nutrition, the food supply being bereft of nutrients and full of toxins, just the toxins that we are swimming in practically in the world. So we need modern strategies, modern tools for the challenges of the modern world. So in the book, I will try to, or in the series of books, I will try to dispel a lot of misconceptions we have about what is healthy, what is not healthy, including some of the stuff we'll talk about today. For example, cholesterol, it's actually good for you. Most cells make cholesterol. It's vital. It's vital. Saturated fat is the best type of fat to eat. Polyunsaturated omega 6s are not heart healthy. They are literally the one of, if not the biggest, they're the biggest driver of disease in our society, right?
Yeah.
So I guess we can start there. Let me pause here just for the listeners, because I feel like we've already done this once. Let me just give folks a little bit of my history. What really got me into health is my unhealthy lifestyle in my 20s. In my early 30s, I finally decided I need to get my act together. I wanted to have children, and I wanted to see them grow up and perhaps even see my grandchildren. So I quickly I quickly dove into all the research and all the kind of the longevity stuff and the disease stuff to figure out, is it genetic, is it environment, what percentage is it of which. And I quickly found out it was mostly environment, how we live, the diet, lifestyle. These are the main things that determine your health and longevity. I also saw a lot of my family members succumbing to disease and at the hands of a medical system that was just making them worse, barely even treating symptoms, just making everything worse and worse and worse over the decades. And I really didn't want to end that way. So I said I have to take responsibility for my health and my immediate family's health. And it's turned, one thing led to another. And I always knew I wanted to leave this world having contributed in some way, shape, or form. Like when I was a kid, for a while I wanted to be a doctor, then I wanted to be a scientist and like have an amazing discovery and change the trajectory of the human development. And so I realized my chance was in autism. Actually,
Yeah.
somebody in my family in 2018 was suspected of being on the autistic spectrum, a young child, and that is when I started diving into the research. All through 2019, I kept working on it, and the culmination of that research was my first book that I published in 2020, March 2020, about three and a half years ago. So that's kind of how I got into health. It was mostly to undo the damage I had created in
Yeah.
my body, in sort of in my late teens and all my through my 20s. And through that, I discovered a lot of the things that we'll be talking about today, all the scams that have been perpetrated on humanity from our
Mm.
governments and these institutions, and what are some of the shortcuts to ameliorate all the negative effects of these things, and what is the right way to do it long term as well, is what I've learned and would love to share with people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's start in with the gut health. As everybody knows, and if you don't already, a healthy gut is a healthy life. And everything starts, I would assume, is making sure you have a healthy gut. How can we start working on that?
And here is exactly one place where the modern medical paradigm has really already failed us. And if we look at, since the discovery of penicillin, how much antibiotics have been overused. Like your kid, as a kid, you take the kid to the doctor, and for the longest time, it might be a virus, it might be bacteria thing, they'll just give them an antibiotic. And we know that things that can cause a fever include so many things that don't even have to be pathogens. Like
Mm.
first of all, it could be parasites or, or viruses or something that won't respond to an antibiotic. Second, it could be something that the specific antibiotic you're giving might not respond to. Most of the time, they don't test. They just guess. It's a diagnosis based on algorithms, and
Yeah.
very often it's just guesswork. It's a little bit voodoo. So that's caused a lot of people's guts to be like in a horrendous state for one, and then the fact that we were scared for. I remember growing up, all the ads on TV, things like, did you know your kitchen counter has more bacteria than your toilet seat, stuff like that. And I,
Yeah.
man, I remember we'd be watching it with my sister, and I think that's what sort of turned my sister into like a germ phobe. She's like disinfecting things, and this is so many young people. Well, I'm not that young anymore, but so many people in my generation are just so scared, and then the virus thing, people with the masks and disinfecting the hands, and it's gone pathological how afraid we are of things that shouldn't even make a dent in you if everything is fine in terms of your organism, if the quote unquote, if the terrain is in good shape. And
Hmm.
we also have the terrain theory as opposed to the the Pasteur virus theory and all this stuff. Some folks even speculate or postulate that viruses have not even properly been proven to exist, and I'm definitely open-minded to these theories, but that's a whole big rabbit hole we don't have to go down. So
Yeah.
but I have spoken about that on other podcasts, and there is a very compelling evidence for the counter argument. Anyway, a good gut really starts with the diet, as most health really starts with the diet. If you're going to be eating the standard American diet or the Western diet, it's going to include a lot of processed foods and a lot of chemicals that are literally either damaging the gut or in some way, shape, or form are harming the commensal bacteria.
Mm.
And we call them commensal because some of them are not necessarily beneficial. If any bacteria in the gut overgrows too much, it will become harmful. So I think a better term, a more sort of modern term is commensals, which commensal means to eat together, to sit together at the table. So the commensals can get damaged either by antibiotics or toxins in the food. Things in the water can also do that. Infection can do that. A lot of people, they're living a lifestyle that is conducive to gut dysfunction. That includes the constant stress we're under. Literally being stressed because it pulls blood to the extremities, to the arms, legs. It takes away blood from kind of the midsection, the torso, and that can actually have a deleterious effect on our gut health. A lot of endurance exercise. That's why you've heard the term the the runner's trots or the runner's diarrhea. That
Yeah.
is a manifestation of gut irritation. So gut health starts with reducing stress. Actually, if you don't sleep well, that's another factor that can exacerbate a gut problem. So cleaning up the diet is extremely important. Fermented foods can help some people. It like everything, it depends, right? You have to
Yeah.
try it, and then if it doesn't work for you, because certain things like this can be high in histamine, and that can be detrimental to some people. Some people respond well to fiber, but a lot of these sort of authorities, health authorities, they'll say everybody needs to eat more fiber. Hunter gatherers ate like 130 grams of fiber a day. And the thing about fiber is,
Yeah.
if you don't know what bacteria you have going on, if you have those sort of quote unquote, they're actually called gram negative bacteria. It's a type of bacteria. You have gram negative, gram positive. So the gram negative, their outer cell wall has these little fragments called endotoxins, and when they live and die, their life cycle, those endotoxins kind of break off when the bacterial cell dies, and they're extremely inflammatory. They damage the gut. They can get into the circulatory system, incite immune system responses. They can open up the blood-brain barrier that can really cause havoc in the body. So if you don't know what you have in the gut, if you've never done like a microbiota test of some kind, just taking fiber can make some people worse, because you're
Mm.
giving fuel to these bacteria to go forth and multiply, and then as they as they do that, you're getting more endotoxin in the gut. So it's a very individual thing. So
cleaning up the diet is number one. Avoiding insults to the gut is up there too. Reducing stresses of all kinds, including endurance exercise, just kind of doing crazy things that will cause physical trauma to the gut area. I used to do Thai boxing, which is like a type of kickboxing, and it
Yeah.
would be taking a lot of knees and stuff like that to the
Oh,
gut
man.
area. And yeah, I mean, things like that are going to be detrimental to the gut. So probiotics can help. And when I say I don't mean fermented foods, but probiotics like you would buy a supplement. I've had very good success with. There's three types of probiotics. You have your lactobacillus bifido mixes. You have the spore forming ones, which is a bacillus number of strains, and you have the Saccharomyces boulardii, which is an yeast, a friendly yeast. And I've had really good success with people, with myself, with my family, friends, with probiotics. But again, the most important thing, as always, is the diet. If the diet is inflammatory, if it has a lot of seed oils, and maybe that's an area we can unpack as well, it's super important. If it has
Mhm.
a lot of these inflammatory seed oils, a lot of fiber, and it's feeding the wrong type of bacteria, then nothing, no amount of other interventions are really going to help unless that diet is dialed in.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you mean seed oil is kind of like sesame seed oil.
So
That's been popular in the
yeah,
West.
all of the seed oils, I'm talking about vegetable. Well, they call them vegetable oils, but corn,
Oh,
soybeans,
yeah. Yeah.
canola, or rapeseed in Europe.
Yeah.
These are safflower, sunflower oil. These are the probably most important causal factor in all diseases. I would go that far, Paul. I think more and more evidence is showing that it's the seed oils, it's not the sugar, because if you look at the rise in sugar consumption, it correlates very well with the rise in diseases.
Yeah.
But it also, the rise in sugar consumption also, I believe, correlates with the industrial revolution and a lot of technological advancement. So there's a lot of things that have increased a lot in consumption and in use over the last 150 years. If you look at TV consumption, or TV watching time, it also correlated, at least for a period of time, with a lot of technological advancement. So it's not that easy to just say sugar up, disease up. But if we're gonna do that, if we're gonna play that game, let's look at seed oils, because seed oil consumption has been steadily increasing since basically the 1880s or 1890s.
Wow.
That's when it really started getting implemented, and this is a heavily subsidized industry by the government, the seed oil guys, and these are very powerful lobbies. And if you look at, so in the 1950s, they demonized cholesterol and saturated fat, with very weak epidemiological research, really just really weak. It seems like they do a little bit of a few studies, or a couple of studies, and they roll with it, and the rest is just marketing and propaganda, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
when it, you know what I mean. So they did a couple of studies, and then they did some rabbit studies, where they gave them a bunch of cholesterol, and they found atherosclerotic
Yeah.
plaques, and they
Yeah.
found cholesterol in the plaques. But here's kind of how to explain that. So when your endothelium of your blood vessels gets damaged, obviously the body is going to try to repair it. So what appears is that it's the cholesterol is going there. It's like the patchwork that fixes it, right? And it's like finding cholesterol at the site and blaming atherosclerosis or blood clots or whatever else, or strokes or whatever. Blaming cholesterol on that is like finding firefighters at a massive fire, and
Hmm.
like every time there's a fire, there's firefighters. Therefore, firefighters cause fires. So this is the sort of the backwards logic, and for more research has been done. So it's actually oxidized cholesterol that's the problem. So cholesterol, especially if it's high, can be a problem in a context of a lot of inflammation, and when it becomes oxidized. So in a context of oxidative stress, as another term that we can use to describe the state in the body where there's a lot of damage being caused by quote unquote free radicals, reactive oxygen species. Basically, these are just electrons or molecules that are just looking for a partner to couple up with so they can stop being so reactive. And
Yeah.
usually that piece that they grab is off of something, off of a cell membrane, of something in the cell, or it could be off of a blood vessel. And when you look at what is an extremely, extremely, extremely inflammatory thing that most of us are ingesting 3-4 times a day, it is these seed oils, vegetable oils, the omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids, or we just call them PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs for short. These PUFAs are in nuts and seeds, some grains, and obviously in the seed oils. But people have to remember, a lot of people have woken up to the fact that we shouldn't use and cook in sunflower oil, rapes, canola, corn, soybean oil. We shouldn't use those. So people don't buy them. They use olive oil, butter, ghee, coconut oil.
Yeah.
Great, but often people forget, if you're eating out at salad bars like in Whole Foods, that's all canola that your salad is drenched in.
Mm.
If you're buying takeout food, or if you're going to restaurants, most of them are cooking it and in these seed oils, and a lot of the time it's already rancid or oxidized, so you're eating damaged food. So when you're eating this, it's that damage that it causes, it depletes your antioxidants, and then once you're in a depleted antioxidant state, adding more fuel to that fire means just you're now in damage mode. You're causing damage to your organs, your blood vessels, your brain cells. And I just want to remind people, yes, not eating out, not eating in restaurants unless you really know what they're doing and you're instructing them properly, or avoiding things that will be cooked in seed oils, is a good step. Not buying and cooking with these things is a good step, but do not forget that they are still in nuts and seeds, and nuts and seeds are plant babies, and the plants do not want their babies eaten. They want the fruit eaten. That's why it's colorful and it's sweet and it's vibrant looking and it smells amazing and delicious. They
Yeah.
want you to eat that and then go deposit it somewhere in a pile of manure for an optimal start for that next plant's life. They don't want you taking their seeds and roasting them and cooking them and whatnot. So for that reason, there's a lot of anti-nutrients in these seeds and nuts. Oxalates, phytates, tannins, there's phytoestrogens. There's a couple more that now I can't off the top of my head remember them. And then there's these omega-6 seed oils. So eating them raw, you're getting anti-nutrients, they're hurting your gut and other things. Cooking them inactivates some of the anti-nutrients, but it also oxidizes the fats. So these are the most important thing a person that has remotely any interest in their longer term health. We're talking, if you don't want to develop Alzheimer's or dementia or atherosclerosis or stuff like that, you want to exclude these omega-6s out of your diet as much as possible, because them circulating around, first of all, when they're deposited in your fatty tissues, they're already creating inflammation. These are the PUFAs, the polyunsaturated fatty acids. They are precursors to inflammatory mediators in the body. Like if you go to Wikipedia, type in omega-6 or polyunsaturated fatty acid, you will find that they get turned into eicosanoids that get turned into thromboxanes and a couple of other things I can't remember now off the top of my head. These are inflammatory mediators. They literally create inflammation in the body. So the more of these you have on your body, the more inflammation of an inflammatory state you are liable to be in. And then when they start circulating, let's say for energy, and let's say you burn them in the cell at the mitochondria, it can damage your actual mitochondria. If they get used to build structures in the body, in the cells, those structures, because these are very unstable fatty acids, they're quite flexible, these things will be not as good, as sound structurally, as when they're made with other fats like saturated, monounsaturated. So these things are unstable, inflammatory, and when they get inflamed or damaged, they cause damage around them, and that actually can be like a spark that lights a wildfire. One gets damaged, it now damages the one next to it, and so on and so forth, and then you got a lot of damage going on. So excluding these out of the diet is extremely important, as I probably said 20 times by now. And adding vitamin E, a full spectrum vitamin E, I'll be writing about this in my book. I think it will be the first chapter, because this is how strongly I feel about it, how important I think it is. Vitamin E daily, probably, or at least a couple of times a week, is extremely important to start ameliorating some of this damage, inflammation that I believe 99.99999% of us have a bunch of these in our body. That's why most people, not most people, but the majority of people are bound to become a statistic, whether that's cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, all the big ones. This is one of the biggest reasons.
Yeah. Oof. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. And it says a lot of good information. Now, when it comes to, I always hound about this but let's definitely be brief on this part. But what you feel is the most important thing about processed sugars. Everybody knows that too much sugar in our diet, everything today has sugar, has some sort of form of processed sugar that should not be there. And I mean, they're putting it in everything. Bread. I mean, they're putting it in stuff that it shouldn't be in. What is your thought on all these processed sugars?
You might not believe this, Paul, but recently my stance on sugar has changed. I'm not saying sugar is a good food, because it's got no other nutrients, right? I eat honey almost every single day of my life, and quite a lot. Sometimes I'm like 8-9 ounces or 10, up to 10 ounces in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And honey, I love honey. So the sugar itself, the configuration of what sucrose is 50% glucose, 50% fructose. In that combination, I don't actually think it's that bad anymore after having done more research. Honey can be around that ratio, a bit more or less fructose, depending on the variety. And fruit is also glucose and fructose. Somehow, when you take glucose and fructose together, they activate certain enzymes in the cell that help them metabolize each other. And there's papers I've seen on people or researchers are using honey as a treatment for diabetes, if you can believe that, and fructose. In some countries, doctors prescribe fructose to treat diabetes. So I don't believe inherently there is that much wrong with sugar. At the end of the day, we have a blood glucose level that must be maintained. We will maintain the blood glucose level at the cost of shredding muscle tissue, shredding skin, joints, even organs. Even the brain can be shredded by cortisol to create glucose to maintain consciousness. The brain will be one of the last things. The heart will be the very, very last. The heart is the number one priority. So the fact that we have a glucose level means that glucose can't really, really be that bad. So to go back to the previous point, I believe in an absence of PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, and seed oils, sugar is not so bad. I believe it's these things being, because you see your bread and all the other things, very often they have a lot of seed oils, right? If you just eat a bunch of fruit, you're getting a lot of sugar. But I don't really think if you take somebody, put them on 2-3 pounds of watermelon and whatever other fruits, I don't think they're gonna really be that ill for it after a couple of years. So it's what else is in those foods is the question.
Yeah, it's all the junk, the processed junk that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
dozens of ingredients.
Yeah. Now, what are your thoughts on with the industrialized? Everything is now industrialized. Food factories, manufactured foods, especially here in the West. It seems all of our food, the farm is going bye-bye. It's slowly disappearing, and now everything is, you can only buy in the store, and all this GMO this, GMO that, GMO that. What are your thoughts on GMO and us trying to, is that something that we should stay away from, is GMO?
Yeah, for sure. We have to boycott it as much as possible. We have to boycott all these things that we don't agree with, which includes all the things you said. So all the big factory farming operations, the confined. I would never buy. I would never buy chicken or eggs or meat. Like I would rather not. If I had no access to that stuff, let's say for a week, let's say we were traveling, I would not eat meat. I would figure something else out. Maybe I might even go for a 2-3 day fast if it
Yeah.
got that bad. So we have to really vote with our dollars, and we have to start. If you like, I know a lot of folks in the States, they have some land at least. I would definitely see what can you get chickens, maybe can you, some folks could get goats. Like if I had a house, we're going through 2-3 gallons of milk and a bunch of goat milk and goat cheese and goat yogurt every, we're probably like 4 gallons in terms of volume of all of these things. So the first thing, if we get a house at some point, is I'm gonna see if, before even chickens, can I get some goats, and because I'm spending a lot of money on organic goat products, so
Yeah.
if you can do that at home, if you can start growing some of your own food, learn the organic methods. They're actually very easy to get into. One book or one podcast, one YouTuber can show you a lot of things, and things like, for example, potatoes are super easy to grow, and a few other things. Start learning the process. Let's relearn what we have very quickly forgotten in the space of like 2 generations or so, all around the world, really. And I would also say, find the local farmers and start supporting them and asking questions and demanding the information. Ask them, what are you feeding these animals, and then see how much grain are they eating. If they're cows, it's one thing, but if they're chickens or pigs, any grains with omega 6s they eat, they're gonna accumulate, right? And I actually kind of stopped buying even organic chicken because it's very fatty, and I'm thinking to myself, well, it's a pretty big company, so they can't be pastured, out on the fields. These chickens,
Yeah.
they must be giving them, or sure, organic grains, but omega 6 heavy nonetheless. So we have a way of cooking them fast, the chicken fast, where the a lot of the fat drains off, and then we used to give it to the dog. But then I'm like, damn, I can't in my conscience, now knowing what I know, I can't give my dog this fat, even though she loves it.
Yeah.
So I even started giving my dog vitamin E once in a while, just to kind of undo some of the damage I unwittingly did on her. So we have to find these people, and luckily in the USA you also have places like Butcher Box and Paleo Valley. So there's a lot of awesome companies doing awesome work, and you can get stuff delivered to your door. A lot of my clients in the USA, I tell them, listen, this eating well thing is not hard. Here's the link. Order. They will deliver once or twice a month, as much as you need. Grass-fed organ meats. No, you can eat nose to tail. Fill up the freezer. You are ready to go. So it's not even that hard. But yeah, you have to make a little bit of an effort.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of a rabbit hole here. What are your thoughts on the gluten and glyphosate industry out there, and its toxins and its implementation in foods, in the growing of foods, and how bad is it really with that toxin in our grain?
Yeah, in the States, I would not eat grains really. I don't think, even if it's organic, you just don't know if it's a tiny little farm nested in between massive other farms that are using conventional agriculture. All that runoff, you just can't trust it. I wouldn't, to be honest. That's one reason why I don't want to go move to the States. Maybe I'd go in Texas. I would go maybe in Texas, somewhere in the sticks, but then I've heard that you have some crazy snakes and stuff like that. So I'd probably not man enough for that. But yeah, grains with all the glyphosate, it's, if you look at how much it's been used, and actually that's another thing, that a lot of disease correlates with glyphosate use since, I guess, the 1970s, when they really, well, it was around the mid 90s where the GMO crops that were glyphosate resistant, that's when it kind of really production and use went up. And yeah, that at the same time, you look at autism, look at ADHD, autoimmunity, everything else, cancer. So it's a very, very detrimental thing. And here, they in Europe, they've done studies on beer, and man, I used to drink some of those beers on that list. I was like shocked that all the beers that they tested had glyphosate, and we don't use as much as in the USA. So I wouldn't drink beer. Definitely non-organic beer I wouldn't touch, because for sure that's just full of glyphosate. It's been detected in even organic products, and even in human breast milk. So
Wow.
this is an extremely poisonous thing, and just the fact that the governments are allowing this to continue. And now it's been banned in some countries, and they're going to be banning it in others. But just the fact that your government has continued to allow this to happen at such a massive scale, and nobody's gone to jail, no fines even, goes to show you how much your government cares about you.
Hmm. It's all money. It's all money. It's profits. It's profits, monies, and corporations that have lobbyists in government to push for these products to be used to make more money.
Yeah, and then of course the disease industry, sicker people who need, the insurance industry,
Hmm.
obviously the medical industry. All of those things are intertwined, and there's money to be made along every step, and they're milking it as much as they can.
Yeah. And if they can make you sick and keep you sick,
Yeah.
guess what? It's another industry that they're supporting. Because
And
if everybody was healthy and we wouldn't need to go to the doctor, they'd be out of business.
yeah, that's why they've really taught doctors, when you go to a doctor, even if it's just nothing, they always prescribe something. Like, even my wife kind of made me take our kid to the doctor a couple of times, and I saw how disappointed she is every time. So I'm like, thank God, at least that she'll stop every time asking, let's go to the doctor. And she did. But anyway, the doctors are kind of taught that, but patients also are taught to expect to be prescribed something. So
Yeah.
they'll always prescribe you something, even if it's just Tylenol or a decongestant. It might not be, something you want, like, some nice painkiller or whatever else, but they will always give you something, even if they think you don't need anything.
Yeah. All the time. All the
Yeah.
time. So what do you see a difference in between the United States diet and industry of food compared to other countries, some of the European nations or Asia, and what you experienced with?
I'll tell you, most of my clients are in the USA, and I have a lot of clients that have a really good diet. And what's really worrying nowadays is that, they eat really well. I'm talking, grass fed, organic, all that good stuff.
Mm.
But people still have a lot of health problems, and their kids have a lot of health problems in spite of all that. And sometimes they kind of get down in the dumps. Like, one of my clients is like, yo, a lot of my friends, their kids are eating like pizza and crap and donuts, and they've
Yeah.
no health problems. And my kid has, whatever else. So it's kind of crazy. But what, in a large part of the USA, or a large portion of the USA, what people consider a healthy diet, for them here would be considered a very unhealthy diet, right? So
Mm.
the spectrum of diet kind of expands. So, like, and I don't mean in a way to sort of demean how people are eating, but like in big cities, just because there's, I guess, less fresh produce, less organic, so people are eating more, mac and cheese and chicken. There might be organic chicken nuggets or whatever, but it's still chicken nuggets, still a processed food. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Mac and cheese, even if it's organic, it's still a kind of a not exactly. It's not, you're not exactly eating just meat and vegetables and fruits, which at the end of the day, a diet should be, a really good diet should be very clean. We're talking meat, fruit, vegetables, maybe some herbs, like really just things that were growing, or that you could pick out of a garden, or just, slaughter and eat, to use a slightly more crass thing. So, but that's not to say that a lot of people are not eating really poorly here. I have friends that I I'm like, I see them, I'm like, telling them, man, bro, yeah, how are you even alive eating this? Like, milkshakes
Yeah.
and cokes and beers
Ah,
and cocktails and restaurants every day. I'm like, how are you not like falling apart? So it's bad everywhere, brother.
yeah, I know. And hopefully they don't see this show. And if they see this episode, they'll probably know that I'm talking about them. So I've known somebody for quite a long time, at least 10 years. And every time, this is quite a few years ago, that always drinking soda. Never saw them drinking water. Candy bars, pizza, just junk food all the time. That was it. That's all they would eat. Now they're having all kinds of health issues.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
absolutely no wonder. It
Yeah.
is like Hippocrates said. He said a couple of things that just really have stood the test of time. All disease begins in the gut, and let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. So if you're eating literal poison, which is what a lot of this processed food nowadays is, it's literal
Mm.
poison. Especially if it has seed oils, they are literal poison to our mitochondria, to our cells. And that is exactly what the end product will be. It will be a diseased and poisoned human that eventually the body will stop being able to compensate and adapt to it. And
Yeah.
symptoms will manifest in whatever ways you can think of.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I tell you what, we can go on for hours and hours and hours and hours on this stuff. And I wish we had more time. But with the few minutes that we do have left, what would be a big takeaway that you would like to leave our audience with today?
I honestly, really, the more research I do, it's the seed oils, guys. And I just recorded a week or two ago, I recorded an episode of my podcast. Why it's called something along the lines of why I avoid nuts, seeds, beans, and grains most of the time. So I still eat a little bit of organic basmati rice, and my kid loves those corn cakes. So if I have one organic corn cake, I'm having the whole packet. It's just the way I am. Look,
Yeah.
can't help it. So
Yeah.
occasionally, and then like yesterday, we were with my wife. We were at a wedding, and I had some just really chocolate ice cream sundae with nuts. And so like once in a while, it's one thing. But if you're constantly every day or every meal, because some people eat grains and like gluten every meal, or a lot of nuts, or still haven't even discovered the fact that the seed oils are really bad. Like our nanny, I was sending her links today to a vitamin E product that I use. I told her, listen, you better start supplementing vitamin E and get these things out of your diet, because
Oh, yeah.
I can see the trajectories he's on, and her mother's now having health problems. So I told her, look, if you don't want to end up like that, or you want to stave that off for about 10 years or so, start listening to me a little bit more. So I read the seed oils is really important. Vitamin E, a full spectrum vitamin E. Don't skimp on it. Don't buy the cheap, crappy products. This will be your friend. I would probably say most people that have not been living clean for the last few years or more, you probably will need to be taking this vitamin E for the rest of your life. And I would start getting used to the fact that there are probably things you are definitely deficient in terms of your diet and probably in your body. So I would start getting used to the fact that you need to incorporate supplements, and they need to be high quality, not the crap you buy at the grocery store. You need to search out for good brands that do quality products, and you have to start thinking about where could your gaps be. If you don't eat much meat, probably zinc is deficient. If you don't eat egg yolks and liver, probably your B vitamins are low. So you have to and your choline is another one. So you have to start thinking where could your gaps be and start filling in those gaps, because when the body is lacking nutrients and energy, it will triage what's the most important thing, the heart, basic functions, survival functions, and it will turn the dial down on more nice to have things like fertility, feeling joy, higher cognitive functions, connecting with higher frequencies or dimensions. You're getting divine downloads. So people that are unhappy and sad generally are in a state of some type of suboptimal energy state, right? So it's impossible to be in a high energy state and feel down in the dumps. Okay, sure, if something bad just happened, you will be, but I'm talking like chronic depression and stuff like that. A lot of that we have found out is just the people are unhealthy. It's like my research in autism. These kids, they might have cognitive issues, but a lot of that is not because of a label of autism or whatever you want to call it, spectrum disorder. It is because they have a number of health issues, which include toxicity and include nutrient deficiencies, and that is what is causing these higher functions like learning, behavior, joy, want to be social, to be lower down, because they can't muster up the energy required for those things. They're in survival mode in many ways. So these are probably some of the most important things I could leave your listeners with, brother.
Heck yeah. Share to our audience where people can reach out to you, find you, and seek your assistance.
Yeah, thank you. My website is just my name, christianyordanov.com. I offer free calls for anyone that's interested to see how I can help them out, whether you have chronic or complex health problem that you've not had the help you deserve or would like. I'm sure I can help you. So get in touch with me if you like. All my links are there for my podcast, my book. I have some video courses there, and there'll be more in the future. So yeah, christianyordanov.com. And Paul, I just want to say thank you. You're doing amazing work, and I really appreciate our conversation. And I'm glad we got to do it a second time, because, like you said, we could probably talk for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm looking forward to having you on my podcast, brother.
Yes, absolutely. I'd be honored to be on your show. And for
Awesome.
those listeners and stuff like that do not know, you might hear the accent, but you're in Portugal, correct?
Yes, originally from Bulgaria.
Okay, cool. Brother, it's an honor, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much. Of good health and blessings to you. And for everybody who's watching the show, thank you for tuning into Conscious Radio Network's The Seance. We will see you again next week.